Picture this. It's the early 90s. Grunge music is in. Buses look like this. And our skyline? Well, it's missing a few important pieces. But far from the busy streets of the city center, in this room, something special is about to happen. It may have been small, grimy, and the cables, they're everywhere, snaking across the floor, tangling from the ceiling. In the middle of it all, a man, hunched over a cluttered desk, connects a dirty gray cord to a battered, stained plastic box. And is about to embark on a journey that'll make the moon landing seem like a walk in the park. And then on the screen, the download begins. But let's be real, 60 megs, 2 hours and 30 minutes to download? Yep, that's right, the waiting game is real. And as that little timer ticked down, we felt it. The first steps in a revolution that would spread from rooms like these in 1994 across our tiny island, changing everything.
Internet fever has hit Singapore. Singaporeans have taken to the internet in a big way.
Just not as fast as the packaging promised. Program activated. Imagine if your overachieving cousin became a country. Like that one kid at school who shows up with the newest gadget, a mobile phone. You kind of hate him, but deep down, yeah, you want to be him. Singapore's not just ahead of the curve, it's setting it. The internet has turned everything upside down. From hailing a ride to ordering chicken rice. It's got its digital fingers in everything. It hasn't just changed the world, it's built a brand new one. And now, with a $100 million broadband upgrade in the works, Singapore's charging towards a future where 10 gigabit per second connections are the new norm. You heard that right, 10 gigs. Meaning you can send all 500 photos of your dog to your group chat before they can beg you to stop. But here's the kicker. There was a time when Singapore without internet didn't just sound like the plot of some cheesy action movie. It was almost real. And to understand how we dodged that bullet, we need to go back, way back. Welcome to the late 80s. Madonna was like a virgin, and so was the internet. This was a time when the internet wasn't exactly exciting.
It was so boring, it used to be nothing.
For decades, it had been lurking in the shadow of defense labs and research facilities. But it wasn't even the internet yet. Just a bunch of computers sending messages and files to each other, basically playing a digital passing the parcel.
Well, in a way, life was simpler because we had to make fewer decisions.
Enter NUS, who refused to settle for Snoozeville. They wanted to join the VIP lounge of the digital world. They wanted BitNet, a network where universities of the world could share research and ideas.
In 1985, I was the Dean of Science, and the university sent me to Austin, Texas to attend a conference called EduCom. I learned a lot of things and also discovered a network called BitNet, which enabled universities who had IBM computers to network with each other much more simply than before because the IBM computers had built-in networking. So when I got back, I recommended that the university join BitNet, and the Vice Chancellor agreed straight away.
Think of it as a LinkedIn for professors, but somehow even more boring.
Yes.
But when this professors-only party got more stale than yesterday's prata, they decided it was time for an upgrade. Internet, which people spelled with a capital I and N, was the new in thing. And like an uncle rushing for free parking on Sunday, NUS needed to have it. Now, they just needed a hero to make this a reality. Someone with the brains of Einstein, the cool of James Bond, the charisma of Tom Cruise. Someone Malaysian? Yeah, he really was. Enter Tommy Chen,
Yes,
network manager extraordinaire.
back in the 90s, I was the assistant director in charge of networking at the NUS Computer Center,
He was the king of nerds.
which is true, by the way. It was important for an institution with the caliber of NUS to have access to the latest technology.
He means they wanted the fancy new toys.
We already have the campus network. We linked up the entire campus with fiber network. Every computer, every classroom. It was probably the largest networking project in the region in the 1990s.
Sure, NUS was all wired up, but not to the outside world, yet. To get the internet, they had to connect to someone who already had an active connection. Easy, right? Not really, because joining this atas club had a very atas price tag.
$1 million.
What? That's more zeros than my O-level results.
It was a private connection dedicated to NUS that we have to rent from a local telco.
Ah, private connection. Well, at least you got fast internet, right?
The speed was 64 kbps, which today is essentially useless.
Wait, 64 kbps as in my phone's data plan going from 4G to 2G?
Yup, that's right.
With that speed, I couldn't even download the menu from Foodpanda.
Nah,
Talk about getting ripped off. Well, call it FOMO or whatever else. NUS dropped that cool mill faster than Coldplay's sold-out Sports Hub. And just like that, folks, Singapore joined the Ivy League of the Internet and took its first steps into the digital world that now allowed them to download files and remotely log into their computers to run programs and check email.
Compared to sending a letter, you could get a response pretty quickly. It is like science fiction becoming reality, you know.
For the next few months, NUS did what they do best. Yup, you guessed it, nerd stuff. But then things got really interesting. Their make or break moment. A demo for government officials. No pressure, right? The team decided to flex and remotely access books from Cambridge University's library. But what did the big wig say?
they couldn't believe what they were looking at. And looked at me and said, "You can do that?
4 words that echoed through eternity.
You can do that? You can do that? You can do that?"
Or at least through NUS. And just like that, Singapore's internet revolution began. All because some people were impressed by a digital library card. And boom, Operation Internet Everywhere was a go.
A few months later, I had a call from Dr. Francis Yeo, who said the government wanted internet access to be wider across Singapore rather than just NUS. They said, "We're going to wire up the entire island."
Back in the early 90s, I was a director for technology at the National Science and Technology Board, which was set up with the mission to develop and promote scientific research and innovation. So one of the things I thought we should do was to get the connectivity beyond academia. There was plans to lay high-speed cables to support this high-speed internet.
Things were moving fast until they hit a hilarious bump in the road. Here's the deal. The way the internet works is simple. Miles and miles of underwater cables link up countries to the global network. Each country's provider takes that connection and splits it up for all users. Easy, right? But Singapore's provider at the time, oh boy, they had other plans.
They needed a single connection to serve only one entity, meaning that if you want internet access, you need to have your own dedicated line.
Yep, every single household, every office would need its own underwater cable. Sounds ridiculous? Because it was.
It basically doesn't work because you're going to have thousands and millions of users, which means you need thousands of undersea cables. It was so ridiculous.
That was a terrible idea.
It was like giving everyone their own private ELP gantry.
For months, they stonewalled any attempts to change their policy.
But then a senior government official
Let's call him Mr. Fix-It.
stepped in and knocked some sense into them.
Wait, he did what?
Knocked some sense into them.
And just like that, Singapore was ready to blast off into cyberspace, riding the wave of a sound everyone would soon recognize. You know the one. The unmistakable symphony of the early internet. It wasn't just a sound, it was a way of life. Yup, everyone over 30 remembers it.
Beep, 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 beep. Okay. Annoying.
Singapore was pushing forward. We went from digital closets to cyber hangouts faster than you can say,
"You've got mail."
Suddenly, everyone was connected. It was like magic, but with more pop-up ads.
Back in the 90s, the internet was sold in packages, something like $26 for 10 hours. It was so addictive that some people lost track of time and chalked up huge bills. You know, it was a lot of money.
It was great for the kids, but terrible for phone bill.
So very early on, when I started working, we received press releases via fax, and it was on thermal paper. So then we would photocopy the faxes because otherwise the ink would fade. But suddenly you had email. You could send an email and then maybe an hour or two later you get a reply. That was a bit mind-blowing. We take it for granted now. But back then it was like, wow, I can do this.
As access to the network grew, so did the ease of communication. Suddenly, keeping in touch with friends and family was effortless, whether they were across the city or halfway around the world. Remember the internet before Google Chrome? No? Well, how about Internet Explorer? Netscape? Mosaic? Yeah, that's what I thought. See, back in the day, the internet wasn't the sleek, supercharged machine it is now. It was a digital wilderness. And the internet browser? That was our map, our compass, our ticket to a whole new world. And once it was here, there was no going back. And it went hand in hand with...
Please, nobody pick up the phone. I'm on the internet, I'm chatting.
Ah yes, dial-up modems, creating more drama than a Channel 8 soap opera. It was kind of like the Darth Vader of internet connections. Slow, menacing, and constantly choking the life out of your online experience. But like any good prophecy, there was hope. Something was coming to restore balance to the web. The cable modem.
The biggest difference is how fast you can get from delayed gratification to almost instant gratification. Back in the 90s, the dial-up installation requires you to have a landline. You connect that landline to the modem, and from the modem, you will start with the process of the dial tone. Then there's a lot of those fax machine kind of sound. And then after that, the whole noise subsides, and then you have your access. And when you download an image, previously that cost you 4 minutes. By being 10 times lesser, with the cable modem, you get it in a matter of maybe 10-15 seconds. So suddenly it's not that long a wait. It is like queuing for a bus as compared to getting your own driver in your own car.
With it came a new world, a faster, sleeker, a way cooler internet. The dark days of dial-up, over.
Suddenly everything was faster. Chatting, gaming download, and late night entertainment.
Well, you know what that means. Let's move on. Web browsers transformed the internet from a place where you just read emails and boring research to a digital wonderland ready to satisfy your every need. Websites like Hardware Zone were popping up, bringing people together to form online communities.
We didn't know Hardware Zone was going to be big. We just created something that we thought would be useful for ourselves and useful for the other like-minded.
In the 90s, the speeds kept going up because we acquired the infrastructure and acquired the hardware and software. And we were suddenly able to do things we weren't able to do before, like trade music on Napster, download pirated TV shows and movies. We are suddenly much more plugged into what's happening in the US. We are engulfed with American cultural products. This is cultural imperialism, right?
We went from watching videos to being in them. Once something out of a cheesy sci-fi movie, now you could stare awkwardly at your friends through a pixelated screen. Incredible, right? But the revolution wasn't gonna just stay online. Nope. It spilled out into real life with internet cafes.
Internet cafes are springing up everywhere, like, bubble tea. But the phenomenon is because computers are expensive. A good computer can cost a 1 month's payroll. So that's why there's a rise in internet cafes, because people want access to internet.
It was where nerds were cool and the cool kids pretended to be nerds. But in the basement, a revolution was brewing. Gaming, once seen as a fringe hobby, exploded. LAN gaming shops were showing up in every shopping center.
Suddenly, any small shop in any mall with a small ceiling fan and a bunch of computers can become basically a LAN shop. LAN shop wasn't a start of gaming, but it was a start of a social activity. You can meet people, you can play against them. That was really the fun of it. We used to have chat boxes during the game, but now because we are at a LAN shop, we can actually just shout across the room to each other, so it was quite a fun thing to do.
Then came the hit video game Counter-Strike, giving parents more anxiety than a B+ grade in math.
The bomb is down.
Schoolyard chatter went from "Did you study?" to "Did you see my headshot?" overnight.
Counter-terrorists win.
To parents, gamers were now the digital world's version of our bangs. Good-for-nothings, degenerates.
Counter-Strike wasn't about all the guns, all the gameplay, but it's kind of like a way to bring the whole classroom together for the first time in many years. We weren't comparing test scores, but we were actually comparing fragging scores. We were.
What started as American culture soon found its way into the hearts of Asia's youth faster than McDonald's Hello Kitty promotions.
We had our keyboards, we had our mouse pad there, all kinds of drinks, snacks, even lunch boxes, because we had 12 hours of gaming. You hear the whole LAN shop shouting here and there, a lot of profanities. So people tend to think of us as like a gangster, one side fighting the other side. My family didn't like it. They really didn't like it.
But did gamers care what their parents thought?
No.
About as much as they cared about sunlight. And while gamers were fragging each other, MSN and ICQ, basically email on Red Bull, were connecting everyone else. You can now chat with your friends instantly. No more waiting around like it was 1995. It was like the person on the other side was sitting right next to you, minus the awkward silences and bad breath.
These messaging platforms allow people to strengthen ties because they could be talking to their friends and their friends didn't have to be next to them. So these messaging platforms allowed synchronous communication as opposed to asynchronous communication. Asynchronous means that you send an email, for example, and you might get a reply an hour later if you're lucky. But it's very different from sending a message saying, "Hi, how are you?" and immediately getting back, I'm bored. And so that allowed that immediacy. I think it improved, human communication.
But as Singapore powered through the 2000s and people got internet in their pockets, LAN gaming shops became digital dinosaurs. History, like your Friendster account. But at the same time, something even bigger was cooking in Singapore's tech kitchen.
I remember when I moved into a new flat, I had to make sure that there was an Ethernet cable that would run into every room so that I could plug my computer into any room I wanted to. And I thought that was like really, really important. And then suddenly you have Wi-Fi and I was like, oh my God, I could be anywhere. I mean, the difference between wired and wireless is like walking with a ball and chain and suddenly having, sneakers and being able to run. The freedom to not be tethered to a wire is mind-blowing. It was revolutionary.
And just when Singapore thought they had it good, fiber internet showed up like a Grab driver during surge pricing. Except for once, everyone was happy to pay more for the speed.
What the Singapore government did was sort of like Oprah. You get fiber, you get fiber, you get fiber, you get fiber. Everybody gets fiber.
But the real party? That was happening in our pockets.
So when you think about wireless networks, what we originally had was 2G networks. They were like maybe a tricycle. Right? It could get you from A to B. It was a little bit slow. And when you look back on it, you're very embarrassed if you ever sat on it. Then you have 3G, and that's like a racing bicycle because you can go pretty fast. But then after you move to 4G and then 5G, and you strap an electric motor on that sucker, and you are streaming down a highway illegally because you are so fast.
Mobile data on our phones went from that add-on that was barely able to send an email to a world where aunties stream Chinese dramas at full volume on the MRT. We've come a long way from the good old days when Wi-Fi sounded like a cute pet name and streaming was something you did in a river.
These days, we are not incredibly patient people. And part of it is because we've been taught that we can get information immediately. We send a message, and if I don't get a reply in the next 30 seconds, I'm like, why isn't this person getting back to me? Because I need the answer now. I don't really need it now. But I feel like I need it now because the technology allows me to get an immediate response. So I think it's possible that messaging platforms back in the day planted the seed so that now we just expect people to respond immediately because we've been trained from back then that we shouldn't be waiting to get a response.
Nowadays, the internet is all around us, literally everywhere. And finding someone who doesn't know about the internet is like finding a carousel deal without the words, "Can I go?"
Carousel? I can't recall that. I know the cursor, the mouse thingy.
No! You know the second-hand marketplace? Where slightly used means it looks like it survived a war? Anyway, my point is, everyone knows what the internet is, and the best things you can do with it. But what about the wizard behind the curtain? You've heard of the term data center before, and nodded along like you know what it means.
Data?
Data center. It's like what do you mean, like a data center?
You're Googling it now, aren't you? The simple fact is, anything you do online leads back to data centers. Let's say you spent the last 7 hours catching every Pokemon in your neighborhood like it's your PSLE revision. Or your colleague sends you another passive-aggressive email. Maybe you went absolutely mental during Lazada's 11/11 sale, buying things you'll probably regret faster than that durian you ate at midnight. Whether it's data, apps, email, e-commerce, or that game you're definitely not playing during work hours. Your device is in constant interaction with the information stored in a data center. From Singapore to Silicon Valley, these digital treasure troves are powdered around the world like sprinkles on a donut. So you're probably thinking, sounds about as interesting as queuing for your Trace Together token. What's the big deal? The big deal is, data centers have revolutionized our lives and improved them, but at the same time, have made themselves indispensable. In a world where our entire lives are powered by data centers, what happens when they fail?
The internet is about information, it's about data. And if your connection goes down, that's terrible. If the data goes down and you can't retrieve it, that's even worse, because sometimes that data is your bank account, your CPF statement. I think people would lose their minds. I mean, you wouldn't be able to pay bills, you wouldn't be able to check your flights, you wouldn't be able to do anything. You would have to rely on calling people on the phone. How primitive is that?
With basically the entire internet housed in data centers, it's no surprise that these are heavily protected facilities. The government understood this early on and went all in with their tech binge. And guess who came to the party? The big boys of tech. They're all here, setting up shop faster than you can say, "Chop."
The internet coming into Singapore was a game changer. Singapore is today an internet hub, a data center hub, and also the hottest location in Southeast Asia for internet startups. In 2023, the digital economy contributed 17.7%, and it's going to increase to 50% in 10 years perhaps. So essentially, it is one of the pillars of Singapore's economy.
Even Alibaba was investing more than $10 billion into Singapore for some crazy research project.
That's billion with a B, folks. All this digital magic is supercharging Singapore's economy like a high-speed train. We're talking a $30 billion digital economy by 2025. So the next time you see one of these fancy brick piles with more lights than Orchard Road during Christmas, remember, you're looking at the unsung hero of Singapore's digital revolution. From boring-looking server farms to enough wireless signals to make your microwave oven jealous, we're basically living inside a giant invisible web. There's more energy floating around us than in our morning kopi. Meet Hyun-soo. At first glance, he looks like your average tennis enthusiast.
A relatively good slice.
But when he's not serving aces, this professor is serving up revolutionary science at NUS.
Oh, you change your...
But unlike your typical tweed-wearing teacher...
Do you like my jacket?
Bro, I'm trying to make you look cool here.
Sorry, sorry.
So our man here and his team of intrepid researchers have figured out how to turn thin air into electricity. Well, sort of. From Wi-Fi to Bluetooth, all the invisible signals floating around us are packing more juice than Lau Pa Sat's power bill. And these guys have found a way to capture all that unused energy.
That's right, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, but how does it work?
Basically, it's composed with so-called magnetic tunnel junctions with two magnetic layers separated by magnesium oxide tunnel. So any incoming wave can excite you freely. V equals the I times R. So basically, incoming wave is RF, radio frequency, or AC. This is the principle how a spin oscillator works. Simple.
Let me translate that. Hyun-soo and his team have engineered a device no larger than a 5-cent coin that uses a magnetic core to capture all that unused energy from the wireless signals around us. Now, when this device is integrated into an electronic gadget, the captured energy can become the gadget's power supply. And boom! Just like that, no more batteries or charging, ever. You heard that right. We're talking perpetual power.
I told you, it's pretty cool. Huh?
Just so everyone's on the same page, you're saying that in the future, we can stick this device into mobile phones and you'll never have to charge them again?
That's right, exactly, yeah.
Laptops?
That's right, yeah.
Electric cars?
That's absolutely possible. It's a freedom. You don't need to hook up cable, you are not limited. It's a big move, huh?
This incredible tech is the first of its kind in the world, which explains why they wasted no time in patenting it. Right now, it only works on tiny devices, like temperature sensors. But Hyun-soo's thinking bigger.
Think about the people who has implanted medical devices. Every battery change means another surgery. But with this device, never again.
Hang on. This tech works by harvesting energy from wireless signals, right?
Yep, that's correct.
So what happens when someone's pacemaker needs juice in the middle of nowhere? Okay. So imagine never charging another device again. But remember, if you've got any battery-powered organs, maybe stick to the urban areas, or your next off-the-grid adventure could be more permanent than you planned. But as it turns out, energy isn't the only thing that's carried through the internet. While billionaires are racing to colonize Mars, and some scientists in Singapore are making groundbreaking discoveries. One is asking a really important question. What if we could send a drink through the internet? And here he is to tell you all about it. Oh man, I forgot to send him the address.
I'm right here.
Where?
Keep going, you are getting closer.
Oh, there. Good thing we have the internet, huh? Meet Professor Chuen. While his colleagues at NUS were busy studying theories, publishing papers, he had bigger plans. He heard the phrase, "When life gives you lemons, make lemonade," and thought, why stop there?
What? I like lemonade. Do you want some?
How?
Okay, first, I think you need to make some lemonade.
Wait. You're telling me this cutting-edge tech starts with making actual lemonade?
Of course, this is not magic.
Fair point. Carry on.
So we put this device inside the lemonade, and then the RGB sensor will record the color, and the electrode will record the pH value.
You're scanning drinks like it's a Nets payment?
Yes, exactly. So the information will transmit through the internet and into this glass. And then the glass will transmit the data into the water.
So you're drinking water, but it tastes and looks like lemonade?
Pretty much.
And just like that, virtual lemonade was born. But he didn't stop there. Because what comes after lemonade? That's right, booze. Say hello to the Boozotron 3000.
No, it's called a cocktail.
Cocktail? Why?
So, virtual cocktail. So you know that's cocktail.
Let's call the name a work in progress. So, the device temporarily known as the Vocktail can magic up your favorite alcoholic beverage, and all you need is a glass of water. But this time, it doesn't just look and taste the part. It also smells. In a good way.
We have 3 aroma chambers inside the cocktail, so they are able to produce a mix to provide your favorable type of drink.
So it looks like booze, tastes like booze, smells like booze. But is it booze?
It's only water. The Chinese, they talk about you want to eat something, you require 色香味俱全. So that means you require the smell, you require the color, and you require the taste. So that's the one we decided to recreate. How the cocktail works? The first component is the lighting part. We have a light here which can provide a different type of color. So that normally when people perceive yellow is something sour. And then after that there's also electrode, which are able to change for the taste of a sour, bitter, and salty. We have another channel to pump into the scent, which allow you to provide different type of smell. The cocktail is controlled through the app, so you are able to really control the flavor in real time, allow you to have a different type of experience. We are also working on a sensor to scan the real drink and to transmit to our cocktail.
Now the real question is, can this replace your favorite bar?
We are not trying to replace your favorite bar, we just try to provide a much more option for people.
Options that might just change happy hour forever. And it's all down to the professor and his team of addicts.
Come on, we don't drink.
Sorry. His team of brilliant scientists who are clearly enjoying their research a bit more than most. We've come a long way from our humble beginnings 60 years ago. And while the rest of the world is still figuring out how to make their toasters talk to their fridges, Singapore is busy turning itself into a giant, air-conditioned, hyper-connected supercomputer. From AI-powered traffic lights that know when you're running late for your date, to robots that can make a mean fried rice. Singapore's not just reading the future, it's writing the first draft.
We're not just putting ourselves on a map, we're making a new map.
But it's not just about having the coolest toys. Singapore is using this tech to solve real-world problems. Power wastage? We've got AI-controlled lampposts that know exactly when to switch on and off. Traffic jams? How about cloud-connected autonomous buses that automatically reroute based on real-time traffic data? And don't even get me started on our smart toilets.
Smart toilets.
Smart toilets?
Trust me, you don't want to know. But healthcare? Oh boy, healthcare has gotten way cooler. What if I told you surgeons could perform operations without even being in the same room? Or country? This isn't some Jedi mind trick from a galaxy far, far away. It's happening right here at NUH.
That's a fact.
Meet Davide, the maestro of this medical marvel. And trust me, he isn't your average Joe from Jurong. Thanks to some serious tech wizardry, Davide and his colleagues can remove a suspicious lump faster than you can say, "MC, please."
For a long time, surgery required physical access to a surgeon. Today, high-speed internet, 5G or what else, allows surgeons to remotely control and perform surgery from anywhere in the world.
But how does it work? First, we need to talk about IP addresses. Think of it like your HDB address, the block, unit number, postal code. It's how people find you. Like your Deliveroo rider, that uncle selling durians from his truck, even your property agent who still wants to catch up over coffee. An IP address is the exact same thing, but for computers or devices on the internet. It's like giving every device its own postal code. So imagine two consoles doing a digital dance, one for the doctor, one for the robot, connected to each other using their IP addresses. Whatever the doc does, these robo-arms follow, like an eager intern at SGH. Or like your mother remotely controlling your life through WhatsApp, but with better precision. So a patient rolls up to the hospital and lays down below the robot arms. And then, "Guten Tag, I'll be your surgeon today, operating live from Berlin." And just like that, faster than your void deck cat dodging the town council, it's done. But what does this fancy surgeon simulator bring to the table?
With all internet communication, there are some delay, but our technology can minimize this delay below the 70 milliseconds, which is mostly real time. The robotic gives you a clearer view using a 3D technology that is much clearer on the screen than on your eyes. We also have a 360 degrees of freedom that is almost impossible with the standard laparoscopic instrumentation.
In fact, NUH and the Fujita Health University in Japan decided to push this tech to the limit. We're talking gastrectomies performed 5,000 kilometers away, connecting Jurong to Tokyo. Now that's what I call taking working from home to a whole new level. But actually, this isn't exactly new. They've been trialing remote surgery since the early 2000s. But let's just say technology hadn't caught up until now.
Robotic telesurgery is fascinating. It will require still time for a full development because today the robot is big and bulky. But if the robot is small and easy to handle, it can be placed in remote islands. You know, Philippines or Indonesia, there are thousands of islands where most of the people don't have access. If you have those kind of robots that can be transported with a drone, anybody can be treated remotely, and this is probably the dream and the future of this. Today, internet connection allows you to work in a more friendly environment. So surgeon can sip your coffee, read a message, and perform the surgery.
You don't really text and operate, do you?
Maybe.
Maybe we'll get a second opinion. Surgeries are nerve-wracking enough when humans are holding the scalpel. But controlling your own robot? Now that's the kind of power trip we've all dreamed about. No, I'm not talking about those sad little remote-controlled cars from robotics class that couldn't even climb over a pencil. And definitely not those window-cleaning robots that look like they were designed by someone who really misunderstood what a Roomba does. I'm talking about bionic machines in the palm of your hand. Literally. Remember all those movies where human-controlled robots wreak havoc and cause mass destruction? Well, good news. We're not very far from that future. Bad news? The insurance premiums are going to be astronomical. Meet Ben, who's living the dream as an NUS professor by day and a Star Wars superfan by night.
I can't shake him.
The kind of guy who probably signs off his emails with, "May the Force be with you."
These aren't the droids you're looking for. Oh, sorry, I really wanted to say that on camera.
He took one look at Luke Skywalker's bionic arm and thought, hey, I can make that.
Yeah, I can do that. Probably 10 times better.
And that's exactly what he did. But Ben wasn't satisfied with just making a cool robot arm. No, he had to go full Jedi mind control on it.
You know, in Star Wars, the Jedi can move things with their minds. Well, we can do that, but with prosthetics and machines. So we're developing sensors that can stick on a human hand, transmit the data over the internet, and have a robot move according to how the hand moves. It's like having your own personal Gundam.
Now that's impressive on its own. But Ben and his team wanted to add more human elements. Because apparently, making a remotely controlled robot arm wasn't ambitious enough.
So something that's really hard to recreate is your sense of touch. Something that's textured, hard or soft, you understand it intuitively. So that's why we've been working hard to create ACEs. So asynchronous coded electronic skin is basically a technology that mimics the human nervous system in the sense that it transmits a lot of this data very quickly in parallel to the central nervous system of the brain to process. The temperature sensors on the robotic hand will transmit the data over the internet so that the human hand can feel how hot or cold the beverage is. Basically, a very expensive way to tell whether your favorite drink, Milo, Daisy, is hot or cold.
So what happens if my robot catches fire? How would that feel?
Yeah, that's not gonna feel very good. Please don't do that.
Noted. Adding "don't set robot on fire" to the user manual. Ben's ultimate goal is to help people who've gone through amputations or those who've lost sensation in their limbs. Because while current prosthetics are amazing, they're still missing that human touch. Literally.
Even though people with prosthetics today can still function and go about their daily lives, they've lost the sense of touch. And that turns out to be very debilitating, even depressing. So we're hoping to give that sensation back when we create artificial skins for robots. This can be applied to prosthetic devices that can understand the environment and send the information to your brain. So you almost receive the data in a sense, in the same way as you naturally would.
That's almost like growing new nerves.
Yeah, something like that.
Whoa, okay. But with these prosthetics and robotics now being able to feel and think, should we be worried?
I really don't see a future where robots become sentient and take over the world. Oh my god! Okay, I'm fine.
Maybe I'll come back later. From the 80s into the 90s, and now to modern day. The internet has changed, and so have we.
Wow, it's like going into the rabbit hole, Alice in Wonderland.
We went from burning music onto CDs.
How primitive is that?
To streaming movies at 30,000 feet.
I never imagined we can watch on demand, at any time. This is unbelievable.
We've swapped library cards for instant knowledge, traded warm human doctors for AI-driven robots. And now we're teaching those machines how to be human.
The amazing things that you can do now, it's just mind-blowing.
The internet has revolutionized our world, rewriting the rules of engagement. The possibilities are endless. The future is uncertain. And our lives will continue to be shaped in ways that seem impossible right now.
I would have never imagined my wildest dream.
Imagine a place where virtual reality is indistinguishable from the real world, where you can touch, taste, and smell the digital realm. A world where your home is a living, breathing entity that anticipates your every need. Where your fridge orders groceries even before you realize you're running low. And what about our bodies? Will we merge with machines, becoming cyborgs with superhuman abilities? Will we be able to download our consciousness into the cloud, achieving a form of digital immortality? In just 35 years, we've gone from tech obscurity to the pinnacle of processing. And it's all thanks to this tiny little thing called the internet. It's the string that connects us all. Just don't ask how it works. Trust me, it's magic.